Don't forget the clicker.
Seminar hall. Oh my god.
What happened?
The online thing that you made for Hazel,
Yeah.
it's not working. I tried the HDMI as well, it's not working.
It was working yesterday.
Yeah, no, it's not working. She needs to present soon.
When?
In 10 minutes. I know. I just don't know how. Is there someone that can do it?
Okay. On the screen desktop?
I'll put it.
Okay, just 1 minute. Just wait.
Thank you to our sponsor, Flora Hummus, for their generous support. We extend an invitation to Andre Grainard to join us on stage for his speech.
Thank you very much, Excellency, ladies and gentlemen. I'm glad to be here to have an opportunity to present a company, a brand new company in Sharjah Research, Technology and Innovation Park. A company based on the Polish brown coal mine in the western part of Poland. We are, as I told, brand new in
Sieniawa. Tutaj znajduje się najstarsza kopalnia węgla brunatnego w Polsce. Działająca nieprzerwanie od 1853 roku.
Zarówno w Polsce, jak i w całej Europie rolnicy zmagają się z coraz gorszą jakością gleb. Głównym problemem jest zmniejszająca się zawartość próchnicy w glebie, która jest ściśle materią organiczną i występującymi w niej kwasami humusowymi.
It's not this presentation. Okay. No. I tell you something this way. As a new company in Sharjah, we are based on pretty experienced company in Poland, because our beginning in our country is dated back to 1853. So our company is active on our market also, more than 150 years. We are producing different products for different markets. At the very beginning, only for energy purposes, but today the main activity of our company is production of products for agriculture. The main product for agriculture produced by our company is Flora Hummus. Flora Hummus is a concentrate of humic acids dedicated to soil improvement and plant growth stimulation. Our product is known not only in Poland, but also in many other countries of European Union, and is offered also in Kazakhstan for today. Our product is geologically safe because it's based on lignite, is produced from lignite in a way of extraction. We have own lignite deposits, so a whole process is under control. And of course, our products are certified by European Union as safe and as agriculture product could be used in organic farming. So in the EU is very important because organic farming is fast developing sector, and giving end user possibility to eat good and safe products. So we expect that this market will be still growing, and of course our company could present more and more advanced products which will have a larger and larger market on the whole world. Our presence in Sharjah is for us very important, not only because offering a product. We are able and we are looking for partnership with different entities, different bodies in United Arab Emirates. And of course, we are looking for cooperation with different bodies, government, industrial, and of course academic as well. For me, actually, is a very important element because I'm professor of soil science at the university in Zielona Góra, in the city where I'm living and working. So we of course expect some elements of cooperation, of partnership with our friends from universities in Sharjah as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Could we please have the slide for the first panel?
Okay, give me 2 minutes. I'm coming there.
Yes. Could I please have the moderator on stage? Thank you so much.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's a great pleasure to be here, and it's a good opportunity to meet everyone in talking about the technology transfers here. I'd like to invite our great panelist, Dr. Rodrigo Basco, Mr. Khalid Halsani, Professor Ghanim Kashmani, please to the stage. So once again, welcome you all. So today we gathered to discuss and share knowledge to the community here on the topic of strategic initiatives for technology advancement in the Middle East region, the synergy of government policies and technology innovation. So we have the esteemed panelists from different expertise to discuss this topic. So Dr. Rodrigo Basco, professor in American University of Sharjah, the professor major research and development focus on the field of entrepreneurship, management and regional development with special interest in family firms, and also he is researching on the shared economy. That's recently I came to know about that. It's a good topic. Mr. Khalid Al-Hassani, CEO and Chief Consultant at KA Consulting. Mr. Khalid is a seasoned C executive professional who has experience in multiple industrial verticals, especially financial information, oil and gas, logistics, facilities, online marketplace. And he is actually, I can say, one of the top or 100 architect in the generative AI space. So, and he is a chief data scientist. He drives the leveraging data to solve real-world business challenges in multiple verticals. Welcome. Professor Ghanim Kashmani, he's a senior manager, applied research, Higher College of Technology. As a senior professional in civil engineering and scientific research, Professor has led support applied research projects in civil engineering and related field, collaborating with academic and industry partners to advance innovation and excellences. His 14 years of experience in conducting various research, teaching, coaching in various civil engineering, especially in the green construction sustainability area, is our expertise. So thank you, panelists, for joining us. So I think the previous experts on the panel was talk about the regional growth, especially in the technological advancement, and His Highness talking about the challenges in the climate exchange. So we also certain similar area all we are going to discuss in the technology transfer area. So we had the sections in the three areas. One is the awareness about the technology advancement and strategic policies. The second section is about certain part of analysis we would like to discuss. Third is some recommendations and actions from the experts. So starting with Dr. Radigo, so what are the strategic initiatives helping the entrepreneurs and the family business ecosystem in developing competitiveness and productivity in adapting technology advancement?
Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for your introduction. I think that I like to see the economy and the social system that we have in two parts. No, the first one was before and after 2008. Before 2008, we have a resource-based economy that was very important to develop the country, what we have, and all infrastructure. In 2008, we can say that we have a shift in our economy coming from the governance to more entrepreneurial and knowledge-based economy. And the incentives that we have in these economies, in two types of economies, are different. The first one, it was a rentier behavior. Yes, that is okay for this type of economy. In the second part of our economic development that we are living now is we want to move into an entrepreneurial incentive, a more meritocratic, a more ideas development, and that's very important to start understanding who are the players there. We have two main players. One is the entrepreneurs, yes, those that they would like to create, they have an idea, a startup, and the second one is family business. more than 90% of the economy are 90% of the business that exists are family business. So it's an important stakeholder that we have to take into the account when we are talking about technology transfer. For the first one, for the entrepreneur, it is about how we can create a culture for them to start engaging in process, communication, knowledge from different academic actors, entrepreneurs, universities. More than 23,000 students are in our universities. So there is a potential there to create the wealth for the future. And it is also about how we can bring entrepreneurs from outside the region. How to convert, and I said this, and I already wrote about this, how we can convert Sharjah in a big incubator. If someone in United States, Europe, Asia, they have an idea, he or she is not able to find a place to develop this idea, come here. I think this is the most important element for an entrepreneur. And just to finalize, for a family business is different. Because family business were the entrepreneurs 20, 30 years ago, when the country was developing. And they were responsible for what we are seeing. So that the question here for family business is how to transfer the entrepreneurial spirit to the next generation, owners and managers. Those that they have to find a new business model to compete in our economy in the next 20 or 30 years. And I think this is very important, and policymakers should pay attention to both of them when we are talking about technological transfer, any kind of technology.
Yeah, that's perfectly right, because the family businesses and the entrepreneurs in the region or I think because of many awareness sessions going on, I'm sure the technology advancements, change management, they should be considering for. Thank you. Professor Ghanim, from your perspective, what are the technology advancements happening in the civil engineering, and what are the initiatives by the industries and governments happening in this sector?
Thanks a lot. Thanks, Your Excellency, for hosting me. First of all, understand that the construction, the civil engineering industry is very fixed and fragmented. So if we go and compare the development of the construction with other industry like communication, you cannot compare the quantum leap for other industry, how they improve. So we need to understand, because it is a very conventional industry. Yet, what we are witnessing now, it's totally different. Example, the 3D printing. Many people think it is a new technology. It is not. It have been in the 80s that NASA have been developed this 3D printing to reduce the weight for the astronaut. But now it makes commercial success. Now the investment and the interest have been evolve again. And to do that, we need to know the 3 important pillars for any applied research and technology advancement. I usually say it from the lab to the market. First of all, producing new knowledge, new technology. Second, the commercial success. If my technology have no commercial success, it's very hard to sustain. And the third one is social impact. So this is the full 3 pillars that I need to have the technology. In general, in civil engineering, we're talking about material, infrastructure, structure, geotechnical. We have a lot of technologies is evolving. I mentioned 3D printing, a new material like graphene. We have the surveying now. Most of the people who are now doing surveying, they do it by drones. They are not using total station anymore. And this is a very important question here, point for the academic institute. We need to update our curriculum. Now many universities, they are offering, and you can use something called digital construction engineering, digital civil engineering. The challenge of the university here, the accreditation. I know that we have a requirement internally and outside to sustain certain accreditation. Yet we can update and do the knowledge transfer that for our students and all the stakeholders through different channels like executive education that we can offer. And this is where the university have the freedom to do that. Like digital twin now. Digital twin is such an important topic. Why we don't create a certified digital twin here in UAE as executive education? People will come. Like what happened with the building, we had the LEED and WIL all this certification, UE create the peer system. People they start coming out from outside to do the exam. The same here with all the technology advancement in civil engineering. The university and UE they can take the lead and collaborate with the industry through the executive education. So we have a lot, but we need the regulation for that. And I'm very big advocate about the regulation. Usually I have with His Excellency talk about that. The only reason that any government sectors or private sector will go and take the risk for new technology is to have the regulation to cover his back. This is a must. And if we witness all the technology advancement, public-private partnership was the reason. And this is by having a regulation that will protect the private sector who will take the risk. For example, in the tendering process, I said, does your project contain knowledge transfer and advanced technology? Then you get more point. So it is technology advancement is one pillar from a whole story.
So sometimes when we talk about the technology advancement, we speak about AI and stuff, but we need still more specific. AI for civil engineering, AI for farming, such kind of a domain expertise is always required. So that brings to regularity and stuff. So that's right. So coming to Mr. Khalid Al-Khani, of course, you're an expert from the generative AI. This is a very hot topic globally. How do you see the adoption of such technology? We have only the chat GPTs, what the people knows about, and the BARD people knows about. But I'm sure that every industries and government, B2B as well, are exploring this. So how do you how this sector is growing? So from your perspective.
Okay, first of all, I would like everyone to be a little bit more open, and I want you to actually feel like psychologically at ease, because we would like to change the mode of the speech here. Generative AI and AI, people know about AI. Everyone here knows about AI. Can I just see some hands? How many people here have used ChatGPT, for instance, before we start? It's a good number. It's like I can safely say about 90% of the people. Now, let me tell you, most people just know when you say generative AI, they think about ChatGPT only, or BARD, or the likes. Now, I don't want to go to all the differences between AI and generative AI, because generative AI is actually a section of AI. However, the biggest difference is that AI works on structured data and generative AI works on unstructured data. The structured data is only 20% of any information that you have in your computers the whole world over. 80% of that is not captured, actually. So that's a huge amount. Now, the interesting thing about it is that this 80% contains the decision-making component that the 20% doesn't. The 20% has the action orientation, which means what actions you took. But the 80% gives you the meaning and reasoning behind the actions that were done. The only problem is you don't have that up until now. So generative AI is no more than a layer, which is a decision-making layer that sits on top. So the biggest thing here is how can we actually advance everything we do with much more accuracy to the level of the decision-making. So how many of us every single day have many decisions, right? Small and big decisions. But the more we actually take that and we use through generative AI, what's going to happen is that it's going to be very efficient. That's the first thing. But we did not talk about effectiveness yet. Let's not mix between efficiency and effectiveness. So it'll be very efficient. ChatGPT is extremely efficient. Is it very effective? It depends on the task. So if you ask me, we develop task-oriented generative AI as opposed to the general one, which you see at ChatGPT. So yes, this is what generative AI did to the whole world. It did the following. It actually democratized value creation. Remember that. It democratized value creation. So you have some people who can come up right now and come up with new technologies using generative AI. And it's mainly today, as we speak, NLP, which is natural language processing. That's the main thing that we're using today. So you can see someone who comes alone and does something and works on a model that is much more superior than the model that's being created through Microsoft, by the way. If anyone here from Microsoft? Okay, so it's that real, it's that potent. The thing is, what do we do about this kind of technology? How do we transfer this technology? Of course, adoption is number one. Make mistakes fast, that's number two. And then the governments, what they do is actually just come and provide the ecosystem. That's the main thing that governments have to do. One of the main things about ecosystem is actually giving places and times for people to go and get to hear about use cases. Let's not talk about anything theoretical here. Use cases. And so without use cases, we're just going back again to zero, and it's going to take so much time. So let's just jump that, and that's what generative AI does. It allows us to actually create and make or try those, which we call POCs, which is proof of concepts. Within, and get this please, proof of concepts before generative AI would take minimum 6 to 9 months, minimum. Proof of concept today, I do it myself, it's not a story, 10 to 15 working days.
So because this is very important, the difference between automation and AI is different. AI and generative AI is still different. I can see, Mr. Khalid was talking about NLP, natural language programming. So just a quick question to the audience. If three challenges, if you could tell, what is the top three challenges to adapt, say an example of generative AI, so that the panelists can suggest how it can be solved. In any top three, anyone? What would be the challenges to adapt generative AI in a private industry or a government industry? Yeah.
Yes. Okay, may I?
So that accuracy is number one.
May-
Number two?
Yes, yes. Please, please hold that for the end of the our.
Yeah. So the privacy. Number three, anyone more? Yeah.
Like for the kids, for instance, many people come to me and they say, what do we do with our kids? Because they will just stop thinking and learning. There's an answer.
Yes, Mr. Khalid. So
Okay.
your views on these three.
Okay, let's start with the first one. The first one here, it's always, you see, people actually, most people do that. They end up, you were talking about something post the trial, by the way. The biggest problem, and when you have generative AI, you need to actually focus on the very beginning problem statement. Most people miss that. We take 70% of our time in the problem statement because we need to find out the functionality of the problem statement at hand. And when we do that, first thing we do is we look at the data. Is it functional? Is it resonating to that? Because if it is not, then it's not the end of the story. We can actually do something else, or we can come and revisit. Someone who was looking for churn, this is actual story. Someone looking for churn, a company, a telecom company, they said they have a problem with churn. And then when we did the first test, we found out that that churn was good for them. 70% of the people leaving them was good because they were not actually their ideal clients. But because they did not know their ideal clients, that's what they resorted to. So we actually flipped it and we looked at the qualities and characteristics of the ideal client that we brought to them that made all the difference for them. And that's where generative AI gives the big, huge bulk of decision making to take you leaps ahead, actually. So that's on that question. There was the
Privacy.
privacy. See, this is why I raise my hand. I am not for any general models. I am not. I don't use ChatGPT. I do probably once every month just to know how far it's gone. But we produce task-based. And task-based, there's a thing, if any of you knows what a temperature is with generative AI, temperature, hands? You said you do? Temperature? Okay, so it's from 0 to 1. So if you move it like that, they say, oh, it's actually being more hallucinating. But it's actually not hallucination. It's actually just probabilities. It's higher probabilities. So we use 0 because we are only using the confines and the parameters of one institution, and we do not allow it to go beyond. That's where we make sure that's not an issue for us. Is it an issue overall? Yes. Can it be contained? Well, it's just like today. Can you contain every person? And so this is, we always have the fingers to show and put on someone or on something, but people do it every single day. So it's the same thing. It's just the governing body that has to come and actually make a difference. I think that's the only thing that's going to make the regulation, for instance, that's going to take care of that, which is privacy regulation.
Probably the third one is on the knowledge part of it. So how the continuous knowledge acquisition has to be managed.
Okay, I'll tell you this only. Well, most of you don't know when the calculator came out. The calculator. When the calculator came out, most parents stood up and went to the teachers of their children and said, stop giving them those calculators because they're going to go lazy. My question is, are they lazy? Thank you. That's it.
Great. Yeah. So,
Because we want to make sure that everyone is speaking here and we'll take it like that, but that's okay. I'll just answer that quickly. Yes, you are very right. And you know what? Do you know what most people fear? Is the unknown. This is an unknown to them yet. So the faster they get into it, and that's the message here, start reading, start using. Guess what? In your own house, you're not going to die. Start using.
yeah, I think we have a point, by Rodrigo regarding the competency. We are going to talk about that. So we talk about the generative AI and some more deep tech, but end of the day, this deep tech should solve some basic problems, should give some impact. Say now the impact, we're all talking about the sustainability and climate change. So to the question to the professor, so why research and development in the region specifically is important for the tech adoption in the sustainability or the sustainability development goal success?
R&D, it is like any other industry that it's contribute in the end. What the point of R&D? Let's ask this question. Why we are doing scientific research? I usually summarize in one sentence. Why human beings do scientific research? First of all, to understand the universe. And through this understanding, we improve the quality for everybody, for the present and for the future. And this is why we do scientific research as a human, If we go back to the history, if we find the penicillin, it took Fleming 40 years to be commercial. Imagine how many lives we could, save by this antibiotic if we have it. So R&D play a major role in sustainable the resources, as you said. And the beauty of that is creating an ecosystem, and this is what we needed for the sustainability. And even if we go to the Sustainable Development Goals, you can see that there is efficient of R&D is one of the action plan, that we make sure that the action plan is there. Today we have this report of the GKI, we have the report of GII, we have the report of competitive talent competitives. All these three, most of their KPI focus that the output KPI that we have challenged right now, how we can sustain it. And the question usually is not how much you spend, it's how you spend it. I mean, I need to repeat that. It's not how much we spend, how we spend it. And in UAE, we don't have the challenge of spending the money on R&D, and how we spend it, and how we can involve in all the stakeholders. To maintain the sustainability of R&D, we need to know that we have a unified effort. I usually say that unified effort. we have scattered and duplicate efforts in R&D sometimes. To avoid that, we need to unify the effort so that we truly have a sustained effort, and that eventually, it will have its fruits as tangible impact on R&D. And due to that, to have the full ecosystem, as I said, we need people who play the regulation, university, philanthropy, industry, and academia, to have all the stakeholders to be involved and to agree. How many academic institutes we have here in UAE? I mean, give me a number, just estimate number. How many university or higher education we have in UAE? Okay, 70. Yeah, okay. So definitely I agree with Professor Muammar. 70 under the CAA. If we add the KHGA, we have something called the KHGA, we have around another 80 and 70. So in total we have from 140 to 150 higher education institute in UAE. It is a huge number. And we need to give, to regulate that in terms of applied research. Imagine the power that we'll have if we utilize that in the right way in terms of R&D. And this is why in UK they have something called Research Framework Excellence. They classify the university in terms of their research. Forget about the QS in the Times, we're talking about the research impact. And they have two KPI, I really like them. One of them called market share. How much university they have the market share there as applied and product. And second, the research powers. How much your research contribute. So I think all these things as an R&D can play a major role. And currently in R&D, we are in the 6th generation. So let's go back the R&D history. From the 1st generation to the 6th generation. If you Google now, you find that we are in the 6th generation. Most of the literature, they give you the history of the 5th generation. So R&D before it was something luxury to do. And then second, they said it became that an outsource. And the 3rd generation, it became part of the organization, but not as a core function. Then it became a core function. Now, then in the 5th generation, we start listening or hearing about the cooperative labs, joint labs, that, for example, big company with big university, they have the joint labs. Currently in R&D, we are in the 6th generation, and the main theme of it, it's called the entrepreneurship. So entrepreneurship now, 20 years ago, we don't find any university that they have incubation. Now, most of the university. And this is also another important point for R&D to sustain, that most of the faculty should have the entrepreneurship skills. Because usually, this example, I use it more than 1,000 times. Tesla and Edison. Edison as a scientist, Tesla is much better a scientist as Edison, yet his entrepreneurship skills make him having more patent. Yeah, and this is what we need also, that all our faculty and the professor, they have the entrepreneurship skills beside of the university. All these factors that we talk, it will help to sustain R&D, and by default R&D will help to have sustainability and towards different topics, such as what we know you are doing, circular economy and other topics. R&D will play a major role to implement that as soon as possible.
Yeah, I think it's one great point is about, we cannot wait like the previous period of insulin invention of 40 years. So the summary is we need to accelerate research and development with the ecosystem of industry, institute, governments, and the private sectors together. So when we are talking about such an ecosystem, now the question is, so what role, regional ecosystem and the international ecosystems together play an important role in the technology transfer and collaboration. So over to you, Dr. Rodrigo. Yeah.
Hello. Yes. From the economic and regional development, one important element when we are talking about the ecosystem is interaction of stakeholders. And this is one of my main issues that we have. Who are our stakeholders? What they need, our stakeholders, because each of them, they need something different. Where they are meeting and when they are meeting. So this kind of element for me were very important when I analyze the ecosystem. And I think there are three important elements here. One is the local or the regional ecosystem. No, I said local here, Sharjah, no? We have three important institutions that start connecting the different dots. One is Shira, the technological park, and Investor in Sharjah, in order to develop this ecosystem, and I think it's a very good. The university, I think, is a lack of entrepreneurial spirit in order to position the university uniquely in the ecosystem yet. We are doing this effort, but my perspective is we are an institution for the last century, and we have to move forward for the next century. And fortunately, it's not fortunately, it's not my chancellor here. But we have to do this effort, and then is how we integrate the different pieces: family business, entrepreneur, local entrepreneur, and bringing from outside. If we are able to develop this as a main, and I said maybe not as a research and development base, that is important. We have a researcher, we have a institution, but mainly as a commercialization of this technology. And I think we can build a lot of things from Sharjah about commercialization of technology. I don't know what you think. Then we have the regional ecosystem. Is how we can use the resources that other ecosystem they have here close to us. Dubai, Abu Dhabi, Jeddah, yes, or any other cities or region that they are doing very well, how we use resources, how we attract resources, how we can conquer with our entrepreneur and scale our ideas in different markets. This is the second ecosystem. And the third ecosystem is the international, this abroad, this bigger ecosystem. Actually, this bigger ecosystem helps us to bring technology, licenses, ideas, knowledge in order to start fueling, yes, what we have here. Researchers, academic, entrepreneurs, yes, policymakers that are responsible. And I think that I see these three ecosystems and how they can, yes, connect each other.
That's perfectly right. So now, I think as three of us, so I was given an analysis and awareness about the technology advancement in various fields. So now I request each one of you, if you can suggest certain actions in some queries. So, for example, so Mr. Khalid, what is the 2 or 3 actions you recommend? How a government, business, and academia can collaborate in thriving the tech adoption like generative AI.
First and foremost, within the same area here is data hubs. Data hubs. You just mentioned, you asked a question, and I'll answer, or I'll ask you, where did you capture your data from? Because whatever her answer is going to be shocking to all of you. Where did you get your data from? Do you remember? The data that you gathered to do the project that you did. You said you had a project, and you... Right, where did you get the data? Any data. Where did you get the data from? Right, from where? No, I just... How many? Give me a number. 100, 200. Okay, listen to this now. With generative AI, what we do is you can go and scrape the internet. We web crawl, and we can get anywhere between 20 to 40 million articles. 20 to 40 million articles, and we can analyze them and get them ready in 3 days. From scratch, 3 days. Otherwise, it's seconds, but from scratch, 3 days. Because what we need to do, we need to do the cleaning of the data, pre-processing of the data, and we have to actually do embeddings, we have to do all the tokenization, all of that we can do, and we do in NLP. But at the end, 3 days for that much. Can you imagine if you had that much data? So SMEs, you talked about entrepreneurs. Let me tell you, the biggest beneficiary today here in this region should be SMEs, should be entrepreneurs. Why? Generative AI comes in and gives them the possibility of getting that much data, that much crunching and processing of data that they would never actually find elsewhere. They can get all of the whole globe's use cases, and they can just reach to them and get the real decision-making process that took place and how they can compare, and you can do predictions on top of that. That's how big it is. So what should the government do? Really is just having that place where you can just, share, a sharing platform, but it has to be in the middle is data, So data sharing is a big deal. It has to go through the government because you need to make sure that it's actually legal, and it is going to be the backbone of anything you do because it's always, the data is always the backbone. So how about a backbone that is processed and cleaned and ready for people? Can you imagine how many years you're going to cut down by that? That's the main thing that governments and people who are in charge of developing entrepreneurship should actually work on right now.
Yeah, thank you. So, Dr. Rodrigo, from your side, one or two recommendation how Middle East can develop, attract, and retain for talents for technology adoption.
I think that I would distribute the idea of talent is generally we are thinking that talent is related with money. Yes, and I think in the new economy is talent is related with a project that visualize the people and they can join and be committed with something new, different. Of course, it's money, but it's what is the vision that this region has or this project or in order to attract youth. They are going to move around the world only if there is something new that they can implement or they can implement their vision. So, and I think that is a talent for technology. And then we have to think that this region needs three types of talent. The entrepreneurial talent is how to create an impact with the technology that we have, yes, this innovation. The business talent is how to manage the next generation of family business and to create new spot that will be the future of this family business. And the third talent is leadership. And it's mainly I relate this leadership with the Emiratization, no? Is how we will create the next leader in different area in order to bring this vision further. And I think these are the type of talent that could be combined with the technology talent.
Sure, thank you. So this is the last discussion, I would say. Before going for the discussion, I would like to ask everyone, how many of you heard about a word called soft power? I personally came to know yesterday only after seeing Professor's LinkedIn. How many of you know the word called soft power? Okay, great. I think a few people are aware of it. I think that's what my question is going to be. So what would be the role of scientific research within the strategy to enhance the region's soft power? First of all, the definition of soft power, if you could.
So I'll say it in Arabic and English. So القوة الناعمة تميز دولة الإمارات بالقوة الناعمة اللي هي القوة الغير فيها قتال مباشر. فعندنا مثلا الاستدامة والتوازن بين الجنسين. أنا شخصيا أتوقع أن البحث العلمي هي القوة الناعمة الجديدة تحت باب الاقتصاد المعرفة. في دول أبدعت في ذلك مثل اليابان وكوريا. I'll do it in English now. So soft power is any kind of power that doesn't contain any direct military power. For example, sustainability, the balance between two genders, and it has an economic benefits and also diplomatic benefits. And UAE have done a great deal through sustainability and the balance between two genders. And what do I believe that the scientific research that it is one of the new phase of the soft power. That if we produce knowledge, and this is exactly what I need, if we start producing knowledge that will enhance us under the knowledge economy umbrella. And to do that, again, the main challenge that we have in UAE is duplicate and scattered effort. To solve this, we can summarize in one sentence, centralize and to have regulation and unify the R&D. If we have centralized body that can give the theme of all the R&D that for more than 150 academic institutes for all the research centers, that will help us, and to put the regulation that encourage the private sector to go, because most of the government sectors, they have, I call it the consultant mind. I have any challenge, hello Mr. Consultant, come do me the solution, and he will do and fast, and he'll do it in the short time. Yet he will do it without knowledge transfer. I need the knowledge transfer because this consultant will leave and maybe I will face the same challenge again. How can I solve it? I need to build the R&D capacity, the R&D observation for that for the future. So centralize regulation and unify the effort. Then we can have through soft power and R&D.
Yeah, please.
One thing only, I'll just add one thing, which is specialization, because I was hearing everyone coming here and talking about it. See, specialization is niche, niche, niche. What happens is that even though you are an economy, but the economy has to have specialization. If it actually has some specializations, it has much more concentration of power and of knowledge and even R&D, because it's very specialized, because it's actually boasting through those very specific niches. So sometimes when you're very broad, that's good to include everyone with the kind of inclusiveness that you would expect, but you're losing out on the power that you can actually gain through specialization.
Yeah, so I think this soft power is going to be an important agenda of every country, sure. So in summary, nutshell, so in terms of businesses, entrepreneurs, and family businesses need more ecosystem based and educations required. In terms of the research and development, so we need more acceleration in research. We cannot wait like the olden days. And in terms of advanced technology or deep tech like generative AI is not something new for anyone, as like the calculators, as like the Excel sheet. It's the next generation, but need more educations and structured way of adapting. So thank you so much for the panelists and sharing your thought leadership. I'm sure the audience would have got good insights about it. And once again, thank you for the opportunity. Thank you. Thank you for the time.
Thank you to our esteemed speakers for bringing in a valuable discussion. I would like to play a short video from our sponsor, Flora Hummus.
Tutaj znajduje się najstarsza kopalnia węgla brunatnego w Polsce, działająca nieprzerwanie od 1853 roku.
Zarówno w Polsce, jak i całej Europie rolnicy zmagają się z coraz gorszą jakością gleb. Głównym problemem jest zmniejszająca się zawartość próchnicy w glebie, która jest ściśle powiązana z materią organiczną i występującymi w niej kwasami humusowymi. Przyczyną jest postępująca degradacja gleb oraz zbieranie resztek pożniwnych. Jest to problem na bardzo dużą skalę. Dlatego od kilku lat intensywnie pracujemy nad produkcją wysokiej jakości kwasów humusowych pozyskiwanych z najlepszego węgla brunatnego.
Przy udziale Narodowego Centrum Badań i Rozwoju oraz wybitnych polskich naukowców udało nam się opracować produkt, który w naturalny sposób zwiększa ilość próchnicy w glebie, użyźnia ją oraz pozwala budować lepszy plon od początku do końca.
Flora Humus to wysokiej jakości bardzo skondensowane kwasy humusowe, które wspomagają wytwarzanie próchnicy glebowej, zwiększają plon i sprawiają, że woda w glebie jest zatrzymywana dłużej. Flora Humus powstaje ze starannie wyselekcjonowanego węgla brunatnego. Selekcja ma na celu wykorzystanie materiału z największym stężeniem kwasów humusowych, aby produkt spełniał najwyższe wymagania.
Naszą misją jest dostarczanie produktu, który zapewni odpowiedni balans pomiędzy naturą a potrzebami nowoczesnego rolnictwa.
Flora Humus zrodził się z marzenia o zdrowej, żyznej glebie, rodzącej spektakularne plony. Konsumenci są coraz bardziej świadomi korzyści płynących ze spożywania żywności pochodzącej z upraw ekologicznych. Pokazali to, przyznając Flora Humus wiele nagród i wyróżnień.
We would like to thank our sponsor, Flora Hummus, once again for sponsoring today's event. I would like to invite everyone afterwards to please visit their booth, get to know about the unique technology and innovation that they provide. I would like to inform you all of the current timeline for the sessions. We'll be starting soon with panel 2, afterwards panel 3, and as we conclude, we will be having a very exciting event happening outside, which is awarding the Sharjah Accelerator program. We have several companies who have been working very hard towards the year to receive this award, and we would like to invite you all to go and attend and watch. Afterwards, we'll be having a very delicious lunch. I would like to invite the second panelist to please come to the stage.
So welcome to the second panel today. Today it's about IP tech transfer and how we maximize IP power in driving tech transfer. So we have with us Dr. Tariq Hajiri, former DIFC Commissioner of Intellectual Property and the CEO of Family Centre in Dubai. Mr. Ahmed Saleh, the partner and head of innovation, patents and intellectual property at Al Tamimi and Company. And Dr. Mohammed Al-Hamairi, Head of Transfer and IP at the University of Sharjah. So today we want to focus on IP tech transfer. We've heard a lot from, I think, different experts with different background and expertise. And today I want to go into perhaps what they didn't go into. So we want to explore the regulatory landscape. We want to talk more generally about the IP tech transfer, what that means, and the divergence of the different stakeholders involved in IP and tech transfer. So I wanted to start really by let's looking more broadly at what IP tech transfer actually means and who does that encompass, who does that involve. So we heard a lot before, but I'd like to start with Dr. Tariq because you were, former DIFC Commissioner of Intellectual Property. I'm sure you have a perspective on what IP tech transfer more broadly means and what it encompasses. Can we hear from you, please?
Thanks a lot, and thank you very much for the invitation to be here with you. It's quite a pleasure. This is the first time actually for me here, and I was so amazed by, mashallah, what's happening in the past few years. So basically, I led the innovation and the intellectual property practice in the IFC, and before I was also practicing IP. With the great honor, of course, to share this panel with an ex-colleague from Tamimi, and of course, Dr. Muhammad. Also, we have worked a lot. The UAE, to be honest, has positioned itself in the forefront of the whole world when it comes to technology and technology transfer, and of course, innovation. You don't really need to, in all times, to create. And to invent, but also you can license. You can actually have this technology transferred and used, and to be actually utilized in the proper manners. The ecosystem in the UAE has proven an amazing growth in that aspect when it comes to the legislative or the laws and regulations. So I echo also what really has been spoken in the first panel. It all depends on the policy, the government and the policy and their vision. So for us, we are experiencing, especially after COVID, that everything has, kind of is now related to technology. Any business that is not related to technology has, I believe, that may be outdated, So the whole formula, I believe, it depends on the vision of our leaders and the laws, regulations, the ecosystem, when it comes to how to facilitate and to support startups, how to facilitate and support the monetization or the cycle of, let's say, the technology and how we can actually get it into or throughout the region. And I must maybe also highlight that the UAE is or has done an amazing job in the legislative aspect, where it is now civil and common law system, where it is in the UAE, and we have now amazing innovation hubs, accelerators, and as we have spoken, each university is now actually taking the lead into kind of the awareness and in that aspect.
Thanks so much, sorry. No, you're okay. I wasn't going to go to this as the next question, but I might delve straight into it, particularly because Dr. Tariq has touched on it. So we're talking about tech transfer, we're talking about IP, we're talking about now the abundance of, I think, companies that are developing technologies and products. Now, when we look at the regulatory landscape, because this keeps coming up, it was a theme that came up in the previous discussion as well. How advanced or how mature is the UAE's legal regulatory landscape at the moment to support this IP tech transfer? I'd love to hear from you, being the head of innovation in a law firm. What is your perspective on the regulatory landscape? Where are we at the moment, and where do we need to be to keep up to date and to keep the pace, and really with the new developments that are unfolding as we speak?
Thank you very much, Shiraya. Assalamu alaikum. Good afternoon, everyone. Very good question. Very frankly, I don't think there's in the United Arab Emirates anything which hinders commercial transactions and bringing in technology or transacting on the technology transfer level. Yes, there are always things in the ecosystem we need to improve, whether we're talking from the regulatory framework perspective or legislative framework perspective or economic framework perspective. However, our ecosystem is pretty actually strong and can support commercial transactions around technology transfer. Whether we're speaking about technology transfer on the private and organizational level between academia and private sector, whether we're talking between two organizations, two academic institutions, or two businesses, or between even two ecosystems, between two countries. And these different forms of technology transfer are all important for our economy and all important for our market. Now, the way the UAE, we need to understand a little bit as well. We shouldn't, and this is something that and this is something maybe which we need to be conscious about, is that we shouldn't compare always the United Arab Emirates to other countries and say, well, this country X or this country Y had this framework and we should have the same because innovation is working there, so we need to have the same for innovation to work here. We cannot have this type of literal comparison between two countries. Yes, benchmarking is very important. However, we have our dynamics in the United Arab Emirates, the way of things from the cultural perspective, economic perspective, human capital perspective, and we need all of this to take it into consideration. And the way our leadership is thinking about regulatory framework is quite lean, actually. They don't want a rigid regulatory framework which can hinder business development. For example, look at artificial intelligence. And AI, the Ministry of AI is, well, it was the first in the world. It was set in 2017. I think we're very advanced in terms of artificial intelligence framework. But the vision of the ministry, and this was clear from His Highness and from all the communications, they don't want to take a rigid approach. They don't want to step in and over-regulate this industry, which can hinder innovation development and business development. No, they want to keep it open. They want to step back, leave the market open, have foreign direct investment attracted to the UAE, want to bring in businesses in AI, want to open the space for that. They had even Google with their autonomous cars driven on our roads in the United Arab Emirates with all the supervision required, but they didn't want to over-regulate. This doesn't mean the government is not there. This doesn't mean that we have a lack of regulatory framework. This is a question of a strategic decision, okay, to have quite a business-oriented approach, similar in a way to the UK, different from the European Union mindset, okay, in order to boost innovation and business development in specific areas of interest to the country. This is how we should look at it.
Fantastic. So thank you. If we just take the points that Mr. Ahmed has just spoken about, and we look at perhaps what are some of the challenges. So when we're looking at, the technology transfers, sometimes there is cross-jurisdictional issues that arise or challenges that needs to be overcome. So Mr. Ahmed now was just speaking about the UAE being quite flexible, not so rigid, and really allowing for the development and, I guess, progress of this technology. But what are some of the issues that we face with cross-jurisdictional tech transfers, and how do we overcome those from your perspective, Dr. Mohammed?
Thank you. First of all, we have to understand that most of the R&D and technology development are happening in the universities, and universities facing a lot of challenges. Start with the funding and also awareness. I remember when I was just joining the University of Sharjah, Professor Mambar brought me in, and he asked me to give seminars and workshops to faculty to tell them what is an IP and what is intellectual property, and how it's important to protect their IP. And we found there was a gap in the knowledge about this area, and most of them, they were very keen to go and publish before even filing and protecting their IP. And then we change, of course, this mindset by time, and then we start to establish an office and put a policy for IP and technology transfer. And the policy was very ambitious, and we give very good incentives for faculty in case their R&D or their patent has been commercialized. They will get at least 50% of the revenues, and that was one of the very high share among all universities. And then we start to grow in the portfolio of IP. But the second step is to commercialize it, and to put these into the pipeline for commercialization is not easy, because we are here in this part of the world. We don't have that much industry to accommodate and adopt these technologies. Probably you are looking for outside. We are talking about advanced technologies, not the conventional technologies. And that's also what drives our IP strategy, where to file and where to protect. Because at the end of the day, the IP protection, and especially patents and trademarks, is very cost to practice. It's not easy, it's not cheap. And we have limited resources as well. And we are probably protecting this IP for a reason, is to look at in the future for the potential revenues out of these IPs, not just to increase our portfolio by numbers or maybe hitting our KPIs, and that is not really a smart to do, because it's very costing and it will grow by time, and we have limited resources. So we have to have a balance between what to protect and where to protect, which country, and maybe we can talk about the strategy about selecting the jurisdictions maybe later. And again, how much time we have to put these into the commercialization pipeline. And probably if there is no strong potential, we probably either not to proceed with the IP for this technology, or maybe choosing very shorter path or cost-effective approach with a minimum cost, and try to engage our industrial partner. Industrial partner, which makes the difference, because at the end of the day, it's not the not the university, not the inventor who is going to create the product and do marketing. It's the industry. So if there is no industry partners or an interest from the industry in this technology, it probably will die.
Thank you so much.
If you allow me to also add to what Dr. Mohammed also just mentioned. While I was working with the DIFC, I used to actually mentor and to assist some startups in our innovation hub. And I met many actually startups where I was truly surprised that they went to the market without proper protection, without proper strategy, and with no kind of clear vision on what is next. And now, going back to what we have, just said or started, it's all about also the government support and policies. As just also Dr. Mohammed mentioned, with regard to startups, there's a heavy investment that these startups actually will incur at the beginning of these, let's say, projects or these concepts, without knowing whether it's going to be really viable, whether it's going to be really fruitful, valid from the commercial point of view. So I believe there is a role from the government, which I wish if that is the case. And to be honest, before I leave, I was trying to work with the Ministry of Economy, and I must thank also the Ministry of Economy on their great support for startups and entrepreneurship and in the SMEs. But I believe that there are some other things we may need to think of. For example, like provisional registration for some kind of IP rights. Like you don't really need to pay the full registration for the trademark before, for the first time. Let's make it like for the startups as on a provisional, let's say, protection or application for the first 2 years. So it is minimal. It's only for like a minimal fee. And then when you decide to go and to commercialize that, then maybe you can actually be required to pay the full amount. Similar like to the patent, similar to the, because, for these inventors, they really don't know still, because they actually are doing that from their own pocket, and to go and to be subject to or to explore other options such as you just said mentioned, which is like the private sector. These are businessmen. They will really abuse for anything that they may share or they contribute. They actually really possibly you will be abused. So I think we need to think of, if we are thinking of transforming our economy into an innovative or into innovation-based, let's say, economy, then we have to change in some of, let's say, the way of thinking, because as we just said, there are so many ideas are really very, very, great ideas. But when it comes to the commercial input of it or commercial aspect of it, it might not actually, be valid. So there is kind of a trial, and I think that's something that we really need to think of.
It sounds like so there's different perspectives here, and one, there is the technology, and the question is when to commercialize it, but at the same time, how do we protect it? And so I guess the question to Mr. Ahmed is, at what stage in the life cycle or the development of that business and that technology should one be considering actually protecting the IP? Is it when they have some certainty that they can actually commercialize it, or is it beforehand? I mean, when and how important is it to really protect this IP if there's going to be some technology transfer? Perhaps you can elaborate on that for me.
This question is like asking the question, when do you take a life insurance? Is it when you know that you're gonna die? Okay, let me first comment on what Dr. Tariq has mentioned, which is very important, is that our system needs to support specific sectors in supporting them financially, which is extremely important to register their intellectual property rights. And the good news is, I don't know if it already reached Dr. Mohammed Al-Hmeri and Dr. Tariq, is that the Ministry of Economy here, there is a new resolution which has been adopted a couple of days ago. It will enter into force in January, inshallah. And exactly what we've been advocated for the last years is having reduced fees for universities, academia, startups, individuals for registering their patent and industrial design rights. So, and this is half of the prices. So this is in line with some major jurisdictions such as United States. So this is a very good news and a big boost to these industries in the United Arab Emirates. 50%. Well, this is something which Ministry of Finance needs to approve. And so now if you want to file for a patent in the United Arab Emirates, your fees are cut by 2, your official fees, not the lawyer fees.
The disclaimer, not the lawyer fees, the official fees.
Whatever they say, they pay to the lawyer. Because to be honest, lots of concepts are related to the brand, and I have seen that. So still, I think when it comes to copyright, of course, we don't need to register, but for protection, but for for example, for the trademarks, it's extremely important because there are
Yes.
so many brands, or the concept is very much interrelated to the
Trademarks
But I-
will be protected by by companies, established companies, and probably they reach a stage to be international brand. But the patents usually by individuals or by poor universities to struggle to.
What I'm saying is that, sorry to interrupt you, but because the patents it's kind of jurisdictional for the protection. So you can't have global. This applies in the UAE. We still, maybe we have solved like part of the issue, but we talk about like for the trademark also same thing. But I think maybe you can still I think it has to be as a one package.
I do agree with you, Dr. Tariq, and I think we need to continue advocating for this. And the good thing is that for the branding, the branding it's extremely important. Once the products are ready and go to the market, and so we have some time until we reach that stage. But definitely extremely important. We continue to advocate for that as well. One is important to register your IP as if you're speaking about patents. So as soon as the invention is there, so this normally comes after the ideation stage, and the concept is there, even if it's not yet reflected in a product or implemented. As soon as the concept is there, and with, of course, the details of how to implement it, and not necessarily it has to be implemented. So that's very important, and before any disclosure of that concept to the public, so that's extremely important in order to preserve your right to register a patent. So this is in a nutshell for a trademark, for a brand. So once you have your brand and ready to go to the market. So this is when it's important to register for your trademark. Other intellectual property, it really depends on the nature of your innovation, of your product. But in general, ASAP, as soon as you have your innovation there, before disclosing it to the market, seek out support to help you in strategizing and defining a strategy for you which can fit within your budget and your commercial objectives.
Fantastic, and thank you so much. Just on that point, because I know that we spoke earlier about the importance of an IP strategy. So if you can just elaborate on what Mr. Ahmed has just said about the IP strategy. How important is that? And tell us a little bit more about.
Yes, the IP strategy is very important and critical. First of all, because it can really help into commercializing your product and maximizing the benefit out of it if it had been done right. And if it was being done otherwise, of course, you will lose a lot of potential to be first to commercialize or license, or even to be grab traction from industrial partners. And the second thing is that the cost of associated with the IP. We have a challenge that filing a patent works on a jurisdictional basis. So if you want to protect it in UAE, you have to file a patent application in UAE. You want to protect it in US, you have to protect it in US, in China, and so on and so forth. And each one has its own cost, overhead, legal and administration cost, and professional cost, and so on. And of course, if you are here in UAE, then you have to have an attorney working on your behalf to delegate and give him power of attorney to act on your behalf into US, not only for filing and also for prosecution and examination phases and validation of the patent application, and also maybe dispute in case if there is any infringement into your patents happening overseas. So it's very, very costly. Now, the sooner you commercialize your patent from if you are a university or individual, the sooner the better for you, because it saves a lot of cost. and also it's transfer the liability and financial load onto the industrial partner, because they have the ability to continue paying these fees, expensive fees, if they see there is potential. And they're gonna maybe stop that if they don't see it is feasible, it has any commercial value. And from this strategy perspective, to be smart, because we have like only first 12 months to decide our strategy from first filing. We have to know what comes next, and this 12 months, definitely it will not be enough to put the technology into commercialization pipeline. It needs a lot of validation, testing, properly proof of concept development and prototyping, and also develop a business plan. And if you are talking about medical or AI, it's even required longer. There is a process of preclinical trials and clinical trials, animal model, and that takes years. So we have to drive your strategy to be cost effective from one side, and also to protect the IP in the proper way. For example, if the technology is potential is modest, probably we're gonna select 2 or 3 jurisdictions. If it is very promising, then you can expand that to the as much you can. We have to, or usually we decide 2 things. To identify the consumer market, and also the industrial market. So the consumer market is where the end user for this technology or product are located, and the industrial market is where this technology is probably will be manufactured. So if the technology, for example, related to oil and gas, or maybe new method of extraction oil from seawells, for example, industrial market will be probably US, China, maybe some of European countries. The end user or the consumer market probably will be GCC. That's why maybe it was good to have a GCC platform for one filing for all, and maybe some other countries like UK, or maybe a large oil producer like Russia and so on. So this is what really we have to develop our IP strategy for filing and protection. And as I said, the sooner we can engage a partner with us from early stage, the better we can, because not only because of the cost and because of the the load on us, but also to tell us where he wants, because he has a plan for product development, and he knows where he wants to market this and where he wants to do the sales actually. So he's gonna tell us which best countries to choose and select in our IP strategy.
Perfect. Thank you so much. What I want to do now is change the conversation a little bit, and let's look at where technology is a collaboration of academia, private space, and so academic, industry, and government. So when we've got technology that's, the result of a collaboration of those 3 parties, how do we navigate the complexity of the IP and ownership of that technology? Mr. Ahmed, can you maybe touch on that in terms of, from a legal perspective, but also commercialization, and just in your experience working on PPP projects, perhaps in technology, how do you navigate the complexity of that technology and its protection for the mutual benefit of all, by the way, I should add?
Sure. Very important. Well, it is, yes, it's complex. So ownership of intellectual property needs to be agreed on between the parties at the outset of the collaboration. Very, very important. And to be provided in the collaboration agreement at the outset. That's very important.
So prevention is better than cure, for sure.
Yes, and sometimes it's a question of as well preserving confidential information. If you want legal protection to be extended to that confidential information, you need to provide for specific confidentiality clauses inside the agreement. That's very, especially when one party is transferring some data and information to another party. Very, very important. So this is 1. 2, with respect to who should own what, with respect to private organizations, there's less challenges. Each each organization will try to pull the cover more to its side. It's a question of negotiation.
Yeah.
Some of the big organizations have policies in place. If you go to MIT, if you go to Harvard, if you go to Stanford University, they have policies, and it's very difficult to move away from their policies. So sometimes it's difficult to negotiate with these large organizations. Now, when it comes to government, this is a little bit more complicated. Now, and it's important here to sometimes the government to step in and to make that clear, because when you talk to governmental entities, sometimes even within the governmental entities, it's not clear for them if they are funding, for example, for an invention or a project, if they are, participating in that, whether they should own IP or they shouldn't own IP. Sometimes they push to own IP, sometimes they don't. So there's kind of confusion within that environment with respect to that, and sometimes it hinders on these collaborations. Now, if you look at some, major jurisdictions, if you go to, for example, the United States, one of the laws I love in the United States, and it was adopted really in the 70s. It's not, something which is the Bayh-Dole Act, the Bayh-Dole Act. And this came after the World War, when the federal government was investing a lot of money into defense technology. A lot of defense technology were developed by the federal government. The federal government was investing and funding a lot of inventions at that time. And when the war finished, they realized that they've invested a lot of money, and all of these innovations are just sitting on the roof, so not being commercialized. And they looked into it, and what's the reasons behind it. And one of the things is that they didn't know how to go about it, whether they own the IP, whether the companies who collaborated with that should own. So all was on the roof. And then they enacted the Bayh-Dole Act. It was key and instrumental to unlock that specific area and to bring out all these innovations funded by the federal government to the market. And this was one of the major milestones by the United States in order to transform their... Exactly, yes. Exactly. So,
yeah.
And what they happen, actually, they give back the ownership to the universities. So it's not owned by the government anymore. And that's why what makes the difference and boost the number of not only filed patents, but also commercialized products.
So we can look into something like that. And for the United Arab Emirates, definitely, if we want to boost the private sector, if we want the government, the federal government, the Emirati governments to step in and to support and to boost, maybe it's something that they should look into that.
Into developing. Absolutely. Thank you so much for that perspective. So, Dr. Tariq, I wanted to come over to you because you've worked in the private sector, and you've worked a lot with the private family offices and the private wealth. And so I wanted your perspective on where you see this ecosystem, how it's developing, and whether there's room for this IP technology transfer, and how, are the private offices moving and keeping up with the pace of the developments, and what recommendations you have generally for the private sector, if we just take that angle.
Yeah, to be honest, with regard to the family businesses and family offices and how they are now trying to move forward on that aspect, I must thank the Ministry of Economy on a beautiful program or concept that they came up with last year, which is Thabat, to encourage family businesses, and of course through their family offices, to invest and to move from the comfort zone into the high-tech sectors, where there should be some kind of an investment in the R&D, for example, and some kind of what we say in the technology transfer as well. Because what we have just heard is that for technology, or in order to boost the economy here within the region, is that you don't have to wait until you create your own technology, but you can actually get a license to use. And that is something that what we have heard is that what we mean by technology transfer is either that you transfer the ownership or you get a license to use. Exactly. And that is very much related to the agreement, and it's also related to the laws and regulations. So what really the UAE has come up with when I used to work there is we came up with a new ecosystem to encourage family businesses, of course, and to encourage private sector into that aspect where we created our own or DIFC IP laws. So in the UAE there is the federal IP laws and there is the DIFC IP laws, where it is protecting or covering the whole life cycle of, let's say, innovation. So it comes from registration. So you don't have to be registered within the DIFC in order to get the protection. So the DIFC recognized the registration of the UAE. So you save money with that. The protection, of course, and of course the exploitation through also, as we just said, like agreements with the exploitation, commercialization, and all this. And it has an amazing, of course, ecosystem with regard to the prescribed companies, how it really, family offices, they can create their own holding structure for their IP assets, for example, and then how can they work on that aspect so they mitigate the risk, and that is very important. And then it comes to the dispute settlement, and that's very important element with regard to technology transfer. So you really need to think of when you actually enter into this world of innovation. Yes, I have an agreement, but also what if something happens, or how it, which is arbitration, for example, the court system, the judicial system, and that's why when we say, and before we meet, before the session, we spoke about the very efficient IP ecosystem. When it should have the judicial system, the legal system, and laws, regulations, of course, the instruments, like some kind of injunctions. And I must thank, of course, the Tamimi, where we work very closely, in developing these laws, in order to be one of the, let's say, the best and the forefront laws in the whole world. And of course, we have the administrative thing. So family offices, they should now utilize this legal system, the ecosystem that the UAE has, and try to actually leverage on that. So not to only invest in the traditional ways of real estate and, let's say, whatever, like I don't say that, leave that, but actually diversify. Diversify the business. And we have actually a very valid, evidence that any business that was not related to technology, during COVID went out of business. Even small restaurants, even any business, a purely business based on real estate definitely was not doing well at the time of COVID, right? So what I say is that family offices, they should really, number one, educate themselves about what exactly they can do, and try to shape better, let's say, future through their capabilities.
Fantastic, thank you so much. So Dr. Tariq touched a few times on the law, the ecosystem, the fact that we have DIFC laws, and then there's the federal law. So I just wanted to touch quickly on that, because it's a question I think does arise many times in lots of conversations around IP. What do you ideally want to be governed by? Is it the DIFC IP protection laws, or is it the federal laws of the UAE? I mean, both, you're saying advancing, both offer protection, but if you had to choose, I mean, if there are people in the audience that are now asking themselves, well, there's two legal frameworks, what do I choose? Can you just talk a little bit about that, and then I'll come to Dr. Mohammed and talking about universities and
Sure.
their involvement.
There isn't a one-fit-all approach.
Absolutely.
And this depends where we are, which position we are, which legal position we are, and what is more beneficial for you at that specific situation. Now, when we talk about protection, so you have no choice. You have to go to the federal, at the federal level. So that's for the registration of intellectual property rights. When it comes to enforcement of intellectual property rights, now, if you don't have that choice, it's a question of infringement, for example, which is happening on the ground, then, normally the parties don't negotiate that, for example. It's an infringement going on, and you have to sue in front of in view of the applicable laws, and, you need to choose the forum and, the applicable laws based on your situation. So when you're transacting with a party, for example, and you have the choice to choose, okay, now, if, for example, and as I said, there isn't a one-fit-all, but if, for example, I'm looking for a specific performance or for something that, I want to force the other party to do or not to do. For example, I'm transferring confidential information, and I fear that the other party, for example, is maybe, in case they infringe, in case they disclose, I want to have a quick injunction, for example, to stop them from doing that. The DIFC is a great option for that. So, and now, if you have a judgment, from the DIFC courts, you can even go and enforce it, on shore. So that would be great. If I'm on the other side of the table, I want to push away from. So really, it depends on the situation.
So really, what's your position? Where do you stand? And then using, I guess, having the flexibility to decide on different, jurisdictions to govern that. So that's a really good point. Okay, fantastic. Thank you. Sorry, go on.
You can, in the agreement itself, you can choose the governing law and, of course, the courts. So you can say just like DIFC laws and courts, because actually this is something that you can benefit and leverage in the technology transfer. And that's one of the things, to be honest, when I was with DIFC, I had this idea where we can actually here in the UAE, and definitely maybe, Your Excellency, this is something maybe, I'm sure that you might have thought of, is to transfer this amazing place, this amazing organization into a hub for technology transfer is actually something that you can actually, the connection between the East and West. Because as I just said, is you don't really need to, no need to reinvent the wheel. If there is a technology in the US and, they want just to transfer or to utilize to license in the East, I believe it's a very, great neutral, kind of a legal jurisdiction, the UAE, from what really the reputation they have achieved, is that, you are in the middle between the East and West, and you have amazing legal systems, whether the onshore or the DIFC or even the ADGM. But until today, ADGM, they don't have their own, IP laws, so it's the DIFC, and there is the courts as well. So I believe for something you are doing favor for the humanity, something that you link, on that aspect. Yeah.
Thanks so much. What I want to do, because we don't have very much time left, I wanted to hear from you, Dr. Mohammed. I mean, Dr. Tariq has multiple times talked about different forms of IP transfer. It's not always that you're developing your own technology. Sometimes it's a case of, transferring or the license to use somebody else's technology. But from a university perspective, I think the race is really to develop its own. Or at least to collaborate with others to develop its own. How do you see the legal landscape? How do you see the landscape from that technology and development of technology from a university's perspective? Where do you see the university being, not today, but 5 years from now in this race?
Yeah, well, this is a very good question. As I just said about the IP strategy and how we drive our IP strategy based on strategic decision, actually. The same thing for the commercialization, which path we are going to choose. That is also depends on the technology itself. What is the best for technology? So if today, for example, we have a new invention about electrical car, for example, it will be feasible, for example, to create a startup and transfer these IP rights to the startup and get it produced and manufactured and sold in UAE and the rest of the world? The economical answer is definitely no. You try to find where this technology is more viable to be produced, and then even under the name of the UAE, or at least the invention has been done in UAE, and R&D, but the manufacturing can be anywhere else where it is more useful and viable for the product. Because at the end of the day, you want to generate revenues, you make a profit, and if it's costly here, you find somewhere else, and vice versa. For example, for some industries here, it is better and more, cheaper to manufacture here, maybe in Jabal Ali, in some other Sharjah industrial areas, than, for example, to be manufactured in India and then ship it from there. Then you will add the shipment cost, etc. So that is a strategic decision made on case by cases. For the university, we either go for licensing to industrial partner, where they take it and make the product development, and or maybe for startup mode. And startup mode probably in the future, I think in 5 years, will be a focus of the university. And our future 5-year strategic plan is to focus more on entrepreneurship, create more innovators, and also support them to make their own companies, and of course creating jobs, and be an entrepreneurs, and enter to the market by in terms sell by rather than going and seeking for normal desk jobs.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic. We have a few minutes left, and I think we've got a question from the audience, but just some closing remarks in terms of the ecosystem and IP, and what are the next steps for the IP technology transfer in the UAE? Just one or two lines on that.
I believe that universities and great centers like innovation centers like this has a major role in awareness and creating awareness. It's much better that you educate yourself before actually you go, because time also is money. You don't want to really invest in something and spend years with kind of like you have your own dreams and expectations and high expectations, and then you are shocked by it's not commercially feasible. And this is actually has happened, because that's the issue. So I believe universities should really, some of them, I'm sure that, they have advisory kind of boards where they assist, the accelerators or the startups or the innovation hubs that they have with some experience. And to be honest, sorry to say that, Ahmed, but mashallah, Ahmed, he does a lot of pro bono work, so it's not all for money. Tamimi, and this is something that I must say, and of course other law firms in the UAE, they pay back to the community a lot. Everybody pays back, because we have been really fortunate to live in the UAE. So if you ask anybody to volunteer and to pay back through their time, so I'm sure that you will have such kind of expertise, the unique expertise. So exactly, social responsibility. So you can actually have someone like Ahmed in a or myself or Dr. Muhammad or anybody in a committee where they can be kind of a guidance for these startups, and then to actually give them a bit of hints. That is very important. It saves a lot of time. And the most expensive thing in the cycle of innovation is time. By the time you innovate, it's outdated. Patents, a lot of patents, and I'm sure that you know that. By the time it is filed, it's outdated.
It's outdated. Somebody's come up with something new. Fantastic. What I'm going to do is bring this to a close, because I know it's already 1:45 and we're supposed to finish up sharp. But there are a few questions from our audience, so maybe we take those and answer those. Are we okay to take some few questions? One or two, no worries. So we've just got two here. So we'll start with yourself. Yeah, Hati. Sorry, do you want to pass that around to you? Yeah.
Thank you very much for the very informative session. As a startup based in SRTP here, we are an R&D company in deep tech, and we do have inventions that we'd like to. We went through the hassles and then the whistles and the bells and for registering to protect our inventions. But unfortunately, as a startup, just like what you guys mentioned, until we commercialize the product, and it's a long run till we start making revenue, so we can invest in the registration and to protect our IP. It takes a long time. For us to start early as possible, that needs a lot of funding. So in our attempt, we try to go with the temporary registration, temporary protection of the IP through the Ministry of Industry website. And with all the attempt, we failed. We couldn't. It's not user-friendly. It needs some registration, pre-registration. It is so complicated that we couldn't. And then we went through and said, okay, we will apply for a full patent. Apparently, the subsidization is only available for Abu Dhabi-based companies or Abu Dhabi local people who they can go up to 90% of subsidization.
You're talking about Takamul program?
I'm sorry?
About Takamul program?
Takamul program, yes. So the subsidization was only limited to Abu Dhabi. So we were forced to be exposed now. We are trying now. What we are trying to do is that we're trying to collaborate with universities and give a little bit of our rights of IP with universities, so a big brother can come and say, okay, I will go and I will register you the patent for you because we have the big pocket. Okay, but give me something. I want publications. I want KPIs. I want to show that I am putting a patent in the market. It's still better than us, okay?
But
So how we get over this? Now you mentioned something very good that they are reducing their price to 50%. That is something really incentives. But this is as a startup company. This is what exactly we are suffering with. Thank you very much.
Can I? Yes. As Professor Muammar said, universities, they don't have much big pocket as we think, but don't worry. The good thing that university usually participate and partnership with the companies or individual even outside our community for a joint patent application. And we have a lot of these examples from internationals, individuals, and also colleagues working in other universities or even with startups. If we found it is of mature benefit for the university and also there is an interested counterparty researchers who they work together and they develop together or participate into development of these technology. Maybe the idea or the initial idea was brought from outside, but it will be developed in the university research institutes and research labs. Probably it will be modified, improved, tested, validated. Maybe we can say yes, or maybe we say it is not working. So we have this kind of partnership. No, that is will be well. There is a not a one standard form. That is a negotiable issue, and at the end, it's based on the contribution. Who contributed higher? So we could take the least. We could take equal share. That is depends on the participation, and then we can talk about it in details later on. But again, for the strategy of IP, because I see that you go into cycles and we couldn't see the best option. But I'm not aware about the recent announcement by the ministry. We're going to see this because last month we have an open session brainstorming with the Minister of Economy and Prime Minister of Economy, Deputy Minister of Economy into this thing, and they promised to have some changes for the good of the inventors in UAE. But we're going to see the details, financial details, etc. But again, you can always go to the option of US provisional filing, which is give you 1 year of international protection with $100 cost. During this 12 months, you should either bring your investors or industrial partner on board. You could maybe develop the product if you can, at least MVP, and try to get traction from investors, and then you launch from there. If not, then maybe you can go for a WIPO application. It's a bit costly, I know, but it gives you another 18 months of protection. So you have 18 plus 12, that's the 30 months of international, worldwide protection. So this is a very good option, not very costly. You can use, and then within 30 months, if you could not develop your product, you bring investors, raise fund for your startup, I think maybe you should take a good decision about the technology.
Thank you, Doctor.
There's a good option in the DIFC where you can apply for what they call innovation license, and which is very cheap, to be honest. I think it's around like $1,000. So when you do that, make sure that you do that, because when you establish a vehicle to own your IP, and then you actually try to attract investors, you attract these investors as per your terms. So they become shareholders in the vehicle itself. So you actually don't apply as a joint application. So the vehicle will apply, and then you actually just sell some shares for the investment. So you need to really be educated within the available options in how you can solve your financial actually challenges.
when you took the micro, I knew exactly the question you're gonna ask, and I wrote it down here. Okay, look, this is something which is a standard for entrepreneurs, to pass through. The quick answer to that: there is no free lunch. Okay, so you gotta pay for what you need to invest into in one way or another. Okay, now what the amount of this payment will, of course, vary depending on the strategy you adopt, and that's why you need a good strategy. Okay, you can have a good strategy in order to preserve your rights, all in postponing the biggest part of the investment for later, the time you secure investment. But you need to invest at the end of the day. Now, there are the government, of course, we're advocating, we're having also discussions with the governments to have funding programs to support, etc., etc. But at the end of the day, you need money in order to push and protect your intellectual property. You can minimize your fees in the beginning. However, you need to invest. This is the quick, and I will discuss with Dr. Hussein Al-Mahmoudi also maybe some collaboration to support startups here in Sharjah Technology and Innovation Park as pro bono as well, to support the protection of intellectual property, at least for some of the essential services.
Also for the University of Sharjah.
Let's talk separate.
Yes, just last question from my side. So, quick question. I come from University, Ras Al Khaimah Medical College. We have 2-3 products in line, and we have been struggling to patent it. The ground reality is we are poor. Universities are poor. There's less of money. Students get 5,000 dirhams to do a research, and we come up with products. We have 2 products we already published, and these are laboratory products, and we are struggling to get it patented. I don't know how, if someone can help. I'm standing here to seek help. How can we process it and get it patented and maybe commercialized, because these are laboratory products from the UAE, natural herbs, and so we look forward. I think there's lack of awareness, and that's why I'm here. From the universities all around UAE, and we have the manpower of students who are, and we are also collaborating with Dr. Ian's team. We are coming up with a program called Medical Entrepreneurship and Innovation for the medical doctors, second year of medical school. So we're going to bring them here, do a hackathon, and try to brainstorm and come up with more products. But the pipeline has to be more clear as to how can we enter with student projects, student ideas to models or prototypes, and then patent, and then product commercialization. If someone in Sharjah, in a Sharjah Research Innovation Lab, is really rightly placed, and if they can make this as an easy process, I think this will be a win-win for everyone. Yeah. Any thoughts on how we can make university collaboration, university entrepreneurship more easy for the students?
As I just said, I mean, we as the University of Sharjah, we welcome collaboration based on mutual benefits and interests as well. And regarding the filing patent, I think the concept of filing patent is overrated between people, because we have to think this is it's not a mandate. It's an option that you choose it when you feel it is really necessary for your business or for your product development. If there is no need, don't use it. Very, very simple. And people who think that I will work in R&D, I have some discoveries, breakthrough, then I have to patent. You may not need to patent now, because maybe you will not have a product in the future. So it is a very economical, strategic decision you have to consider. And again, not everything is patentable. When you do an intensive search, what we call patentability search, we usually do it with our patent attorney firm for a couple of months, sometimes 4 months, sometimes 6 months. to have a final decision. This technology is patentable, and it's worthing to proceed a patent application. So it's not a decision you take overnight, and just because you do some Google search. So there are a lot of things, intensive things to be done to be sure that this is patentable, it is viable for the market, it is feasible, and then you go for patenting option. And again, if you think of sometimes not the technology itself or the new innovation in the technology which worth to be patent and then commercialized, the business model itself could be innovative, and then has the weight and has the potential to go to the market, not the technology itself, because the technology sometimes has very limitation, but the way you market it, the way you present it to the customers, which makes the difference, even without a patent. And if you look for the great tech companies like Apple, Google, Facebook, Twitter, all these kind of big companies, they usually they don't have any patents for their product, but they have very successful because their business model was successful, not the technology they are using. And especially for the software area and software engineering, the patents is very limited.
Thank you. I think actually we developed a herbal mouthwash, and these things are already clinical trial and tested. And many things like these are there because we are healthcare people. But we need to, patent it, because otherwise anyone can take it. I know, this product or this product, and that's why we need some help from, someone who like you. Thank you so much.
Questions, you can find these men, I'm sure, outside and have your offline discussions. But thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you to Sharjah Park, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks so much.
I would like to start our last panel. I would like to invite Dr. Vaibhav for moderating this session, please.
If you'd like to meet me, I'll have a discussion with you. I'm leading the IP team at AUS. I'll have a chat with you. I have some interesting thoughts for you. Hello. Good afternoon, everybody. We're very close into lunch, so we'll try and keep this as interesting and short. Can I have all the panel members here? It's a very interesting topic today, from lab to market, and please have a seat here. So we have very interesting panel members here who are going to talk about their experiences in technology, innovation, and commercialization. We have Dr. Mishra, who's the director of Unveil Institute for AI in Healthcare, Gulf Medical University. Dr. Shabrak, very active in the climate action, and director and CEO of co-founder Air Impact. And we have the associate professor, Dr. Ataur Rahman at College of Engineering and Information Technology. So lab to market, that's a very interesting topic. I've been very closely associated in my journey in the UK and in the UAE as well. So when we say lab to market, we basically mean that we have a researcher who comes up with a novel idea, who believes that this technology will revolutionize the world, and then he takes in different steps to commercialize that technology. And now this process can take anywhere from 0 to 15 years. So it's basically being a visionary and imagining that the next 10, 15 years, this technology will be relevant and is going to change the market and bring lots of revenue and generate lots of revenue. And being that visionary, that's where more of the challenges that's where most of the challenges are. So as we know that research or from lab to market, commercialization starts with the researcher who comes up with an idea. So I'd like to pose my first question to Dr. Atar Rahman. And my question is, what role do you think academia plays in developing new technologies? And how are universities in the UAE supporting researchers in coming up with new ideas, novel technologies that will revolutionize the market?
Good afternoon, everyone. Well, whatever I speak should not be associated with a specific university. I was fortunate enough to have been associated with industry for over a decade, and then after with 7 universities in 5 different countries. 3 of them are in GCC, and then I receive frequent feedback from my collaborators regionally and then around the world. So the first thing is that academia is really important and is playing a very good role in promoting all the innovations. In fact, if we look at the discoveries, most of the discoveries have been made at labs which are associated with universities. Now, coming to the point when we say lab to market, I believe that there are 2 points that needs to be focused here. One is lab to market, and the first one is the readiness of the labs itself. As the distinguished speakers mentioned that many of the universities were teaching oriented, and now they have moved to research oriented universities. Although they have done this change, they have made the move, but there were some changes which were also required. Now, the mature universities which were having sufficient funds have made this change beautifully. They have developed proper research infrastructure, and then they have drastically made this change. But at the same time, we were also having some universities which are not having sufficient funds, to being a research-oriented university. For example, when we talk about research, definitely we need a workforce to do the research for us, but many universities don't have the PhD programs. Now, when you don't have PhD programs, ultimately the load will be, given to the faculty members, but there is no change in the teaching load. So if we talk about like a decade ago, teaching load remains the same, and there was no such research requirement, but now teaching load is the same, and we also have a lot of research requirement as well. And now the faculty members have to publish, and not just publish, but publish a lot, right? So I believe the faculty members are kind of stuck in a loop where they have to publish, and they are not getting the time needed to actually commercialize, their research. And of course, the lack of support in terms of human resources plays an important role. Now here again, there is one other external factor as well, which is also, playing a big role here, and that is about the ranking of the universities and the organizations which are involved with the ranking. They are focusing on certain KPIs, and in order to be ranked higher and higher, the universities need a number in terms of publication. Now, fine, we are, getting that certain number, but that is just a number. The real research needs to be done, and needs to be done properly. And the focus should be more on commercialization, not just a research paper. And then again, when it comes to research, every type of research is not publishable. Every type of research is not good for IP. So we need to look at the commercial value of a certain project and only then decide if we should go for an IP or publish it as a research paper.
Thank you. That's a very important point. Whenever we work with faculty members, that's one of the most important reasons they suggest that we don't have the time. We are so busy with teachings that we don't have the time to sit and file patents, and that's where postdocs, PhD students are so important. Talking about commercialization. So once I'm going sequentially in this order. So let's say we have a faculty member who's come up with an idea, he wants to commercialize the technology. He's developed a prototype. Next step comes into IP. So now the step is, should we patent or should we not? So Dr. Mushra, he has a few patents under his name, so he's very experienced in that field. So with medtech technologies, how important is intellectual property, and what role does it play in commercialization? And if you could explain about your journey about patents, because a lot of people here would like to know.
We have been in process of evaluating certain patents, and even I have filed certain patents. The same as Professor was saying, the pressure is to file patents also. So people are picking the low-hanging fruits and making patents. Most of the patents I unfortunately find is actually that they cannot be converted into good product. And the other side of the story is the good patents, they are not seeing the light of the world. Means they are not, because of lack of funding, they are not being converted. So both thing is there. So there are a lot of patents, and there is generally you talk to some people that I have a patent and I want to commercialize it. The perception is that you can get patent easily. But the thing is, same is true with papers also. So much noise is there related to patent also. So it's very difficult actually to find out the right patent which can be commercialized. So the journey starts there. So picking the right patent which can be commercialized. Now the thing is, converting a product and then ensuring its IP, and then where you want to actually, suppose we have filed a patent in Germany, no, so it gives you protection, and but it gives not giving protection for Indian market, no. So this type of knowledge is not there. So that's why there should be a complete ecosystem. Some universities are having, but unfortunately some private universities are not having, and that's I advocated. And in my university also, they are now starting an innovation and incubation hub to support and increase support at the life cycle of patenting and converting the product into patent into product. So IP is right, but everyone should not file this patent because they will not actually able to make any money out of that. And secondly, we should develop an ecosystem. Universities should come up with more fund to support IP rights or patenting, and even not only patent in the process. It's not. It's a part of journey. It's not destination. The big thing is when you will get the check of means money from out of those, and that is ultimately going to encourage people to innovate. When a professor, like I give an example of a professor from Stanford University, he came up with a product which called Coursera. Nothing was new in that. Everyone was offering those kind of product, but the way they delivered it, same is true for Khan Academy also. So these products were nothing, they are not having anything, any patent behind that. But this product actually came into market, the execution was very well, and support from the university was very good. So if the faculties or students are getting support, so need of ecosystem is there. That's why this place where we are actually discussing this all thing, this type of institution are very important. Yeah.
Thank you. I actually always mention this to faculty members and students that filing a patent is your first step towards commercialization and not this last step. So you file a patent and don't forget about it. You come back and then start your journey towards commercialization. Talking about students and entrepreneurs, Dr. Shabrak, you have continuously been working with startups, and you've created an ecosystem with with UAE University. You were the CEO of UAE Science and Innovation Park. So now taking the next step, you have a patent. Let's say the students or faculty are interested in commercialization. What's the next step? How were you as a science park working with the university and startups, I'm assuming, or students, entrepreneurs? What was your experience like? And just to add to that point, if you have any success stories as well, that would be, everybody would be very wonderful to, everybody would be very interested to know that.
Thank you. Yeah, so actually, as you mentioned, I was the CEO of the UAE Science and Innovation Park. And actually, I mean, commercialization, everyone is talking about, and everyone is trying actually to push for more actually inventions reaching the market. But based on my experience, actually, one of the issues, I mean, there are different issues. The first issue, I think, is the lack of opportunities, or let's say, creating the need for academia and industry to collaborate. So both actually, they talk about it, but they don't really understand how it works. Like, how are we going to collaborate, okay? So there is a need in general, but this need is not translated into very concrete terms when it comes to, you know, collaboration between academia and industry. And that's a big problem. And one of the issues behind that is the difference, like the lack of communication and the difference in vocabulary, even in the way actually how, for example, faculty members talk about their research and how industry express its needs. And actually you have completely two separate words, and that creates like this silo. Everyone is working by itself in, you know, in its own word, and they are not able to communicate, to talk, to collaborate. And for me, this is like one of the biggest issues. The other, like another problem is actually trust. So generally industry, because also of this maybe, you know, problem of communication, they think that, yeah, faculty members are in the labs and they are just actually there. They are out of the world. They don't understand like our needs. They are not able to help us, you know. So this lack of trust also creates barriers for this constructive collaboration and communication. And you need really to come up with approaches and strategies to, you know, bridge the two words. And that's actually what we did. And I'm gonna give you like two examples, okay? So, so the first thing, like when I was like really working on this issue, the first thing I said, you should never push as a university, never start pushing your inventions, because no one is going to, like very few are going to be interested because of the problems I mentioned, okay? The best approach is to start pulling the demand and see actually what industry really needs, and then show your capacities as a university. How can you, you know, address these needs? And we did this, one of the examples, so it was during COVID, so we organized a boot camp. It was a 1-month boot camp, okay? So the way how we built this boot camp, so we talked to Seha, okay? We told them, okay, you have a lot of challenges during this period. Please let us know what are these challenges. We spent about 1 month defining the challenges. First, actually, we received thousands of challenges from all the personnel of Seha. And then we worked with the leadership of Seha to identify 5 challenges. So the challenges came from the personnel, from the people on the ground, from those who have the needs, okay? And then based on these challenges, we built the boot camp. And we built it in a way that we had faculty members, researchers, we had students from the university and even from high school. And then actually we looked at the ecosystem, we looked at startups having some solutions that could be addressing the challenge, not necessarily exactly the challenges. And we built diverse groups. So in each group we had people from SAHA, the challenge holder, faculty members, researchers, university students, high school students, and entrepreneurs. 1 month collaboration. And at the end of the month, we came up with solutions. We presented this to the leadership of SAHA. They were astonished, saying like, wow, how did you build this in a month period? Like everything was, this is exactly what we want and what we need. And of course, actually, once you have this experience, they start listening to you and they start coming to you and say, oh, hey, we have this issue, we want to work with you. And then actually you start pushing.
The trust starts to build.
Exactly. Then you start pushing and then you start looking, okay, we have these inventions. We have these solutions, like how can we work together? So the pull approach and then the push, and that's how actually you increase the collaboration, and you need to find the way, like the approaches, like boot camps, design thinking, etc., so that you can bring them to speak the same language.
Absolutely. So you want to add something?
I would like to add to this point. I believe push and pull, both models are equally effective, especially with the disruptive technologies. Usually we have to go with the push model, where we have to spread awareness and then, ask people to adopt a certain technology. Now, when it comes to covering the gap between the academia and industry, I believe the universities should have incubation centers, and also they should have technology transfer units or offices as well. Some universities have those, many universities don't have those. So they can actually play a very good role here.
Actually, that's a very important point about technology transfer offices, and that's what we do. We try and communicate between the faculty members or the researchers and the industry. The language is what we try to tone it down a bit, because our initial discussions are not very technical. Initial discussions are about what the market is, what is this technology going to do, how is it going to improve the current technology that we have. Technical discussions come on at a very later stage.
And maybe actually I need to add something. I also, like when faculty members, researchers come to the science park and say, oh, we have inventions and we want really to help us, to bring it to market. The first thing I always say to these researchers, stop loving your invention. Like you are in love with your invention. You need to be able to kill that invention, because actually it could be the best invention, but if it doesn't have an application, if it doesn't solve a problem, you need to pivot, you need to kill it, you need to have a vision, but you should not be attached to your product.
Absolutely.
I like to add something that we here call 99% there phenomena. Actually, how quick you move. Sometimes we are too much obsessed with our product that we start adding one feature, another feature, go to market. Time we are actually not going market and making real money. So that's the time you kill your company actually. So don't love too much, be rational, no? So that's
Actually, that's the difference between an researcher and an entrepreneur, because the researcher always research. He loves this technology so much that he wants to add additional points to it or additional applications to it, whereas an entrepreneur wants to take it to the market. Once you have something in market, you have people buying that product, you can do all the modifications you want because you have a brand name, and there will be people who would be interested. And just coming to your question as well, it's very important that you have discussions with industrial partners. That's very important because that is where you will get an idea of what exactly do they want, and is your product the need of the market at the moment. So that's a very important point to remember. Talking about researchers and what they need to do and what they don't need to do, I have a question for you about publications and patents. That's where you started off this discussion with. Now, with universities, publications is a very important point and as a very important KPI as well, because that's what researchers have been told to do. You publish or you perish. So you need to keep publishing. Where do you find time or the balance between patents and publications? Because just for everybody's knowledge, once you publish your information or your technology, you cannot patent it after that. So you have to patent it first and then you have to publish it. So any thoughts and ideas, suggestions?
Well, this is a very important question. Where do we get time for the publications and research? As I highlighted it in the very beginning of this session, in different countries, we have different models, right? For instance, in some of the countries, they give the teaching load as per your rank, right? So the higher your rank, the less teaching load you will have, and you will have more research-oriented load, right? Here in the GCC, if I talk generally, we don't have much difference, right? Even if it is on the paper, ultimately at the end of the day, it is the same load. So it doesn't matter if you are an assistant professor or a full professor, you will have the full teaching load, and on top you will also have higher expectations in terms of research as well. So I believe this model needs to be changed in case if we really want something productive, because quality research needs time, and not only just research, but converting it into a commercializable product, it is something that needs time. But on the other hand, if a faculty member is evaluated on an annual basis and there is an expectation of a certain number of publications from him, then it becomes quite difficult. Frankly speaking, if I talk in general, so more and more it is kind of survivability game, right? So every person is mainly concerned about certain number of publications rather than putting the actual quality. What the Western world is doing is that they are spending more on the infrastructure, and with the infrastructure you get the required number of research output automatically, right? But here I believe we are doing the opposite of it, right? We are looking for a number instead of working on the real infrastructure. As distinguished speakers already mentioned, that universities don't have very deep pockets. So I believe this is the place where we can actually involve the private sector. As UAE is mainly the consumption market, they are looking forward to ready-made solutions, which of course are proven solutions, and they have risk, less associated risk. But at the same time, if we work on some policies, I believe we can ask them to reinvest certain percentage of their revenue in R&D, in local R&D, and maybe they can also provide sort of scholarships which the private universities can use, because the PhD program is usually considered as an overhead by the private universities because they require large number of resources, and at the same time you're not getting the required monetary benefit from it. So maybe if we can involve somehow the industry to provide kind of funding in terms of scholarships or building of labs or something like that, maybe it could work.
Actually, this is a universal problem, I would say, when in the UK as well, Europe as well, US, publications are extremely important. That is given preferences over patents. But I would like to point out, we're not discrediting publications here. Both are equally important. It depends on what route of research do you want to take. I'll come to a question at the end. And what route of research do you want to take? Is it down the publication route? And if you want to commercialize research, then patents are important. Discussing commercialization, diabetes, it's a universal problem. We all know that. There's no need to debate on that. There is immense research happening on this subject in the world. And since you're an expert in the field, what should UAE do, or what is UAE not doing to see technologies or research get commercialized in the field of diabetes? Where are we lacking, or I don't know, I'm not very aware. Maybe we're way ahead and we're way advanced. So
now, actually, diabetes depends on the genotype, though we call it phenotype in. So every disease has different manifestation. So we as a country, UAE, we actually take ready-made technology from, as Professor was talking about. Even in future, AI will come, there will be recommendation system based on the data which is either from India or from European country. There will be need to customize this solution for our country, UAE here. So there lot of potential is there, and in future there will be research, more lab test will become redundant, the things will be there, we will be more, treatment will be more on the basis of genome sequencing data and all. So we are ready for that, and actually many at institution level we are talking about these things, but we are not translating these in terms of company. Like I was present in launch of one company, BioAero. The person came from Canada and he has actually foreseen the opportunity here in UAE, and he started a company of genome sequencing and precision medicine. We need to, these companies should spin off from the universities, and some big names should come from UAE. That we are not doing. Another thing is there, we are looking for diversification from fossil fuel based economy to, and one of the key area is healthcare also. Unless we develop product, so services, whatever you do, product brings you a lot of, like in any country, like suppose I'm giving an example of India, you are increasing your agricultural production by 200% and you are making an anti-combat aircraft, which is more lucrative, which will get more money. So if we are not developing our own unicorn here in UAE in healthcare, we will be relying, two things are there, we are relying on the false models or something like, which are not customized for our country. Secondly, we are missing on the opportunity of earning also. So these two things are there. In diabetes, there is lot of even gut microbiome analysis. So many things are there which can be done in diabetes treatment. So many things are there in research paper which is actually not translated into actual products which can be done, and there is a lot of opportunity here because the prevalence of diabetes is also 17% and more than that, and it is increasing day by day. So lot can be done, and the Bikel, they are working on one product, so Raj is here, so retinopathy. So the thing is they are working on one data set to test the model. They are further going India to get some data set. Getting data set is also very difficult here in UAE. So whole we collectively as university, ecosystem, government should think how to foster innovation and make it easy to make a country, a product from this country.
Very interesting point, actually. Thank you for that. I think the theme of today's forum has been impact, and you have been doing a lot of work with students, entrepreneurs on impact of commercialization. You started the University of Future Concept. Can you elaborate a bit more about what the University of the Future Concept was? How would you work with entrepreneurs, and what impact did it have on?
Yeah, so do you hear me? Yeah. So yeah, the University of the Future. So this is a concept on which we worked and we showcased at Expo 2020. So in a nutshell, the University of the Future is a university that graduates job creators instead of job seekers. And the vision behind was like, okay, we have a lot of youth in this region, and we need really to solve the problem of unemployment. So how can we solve this problem at the source? And that's the idea of the University of the Future. Now, behind the University of the Future, there is a philosophy. And the philosophy is that universities need to be what we call public square, where actually education is protected as a common good, and where education is experienced as a common good, and where education is governed as a common good. So that's the main philosophy. Then actually you can implement this through different ways. But the University of the Future, so how are we going to create those job creators? So first actually is to put this connection again between industry, community, academia, all these, triple, quadruple, quintuple, helix, whatever, count and yeah, all working together, okay? It's also about interdisciplinarity. As I told you, like it's very important to have, if you want really to innovate, you need to listen and to bring diverse group together. Whatever, like it's not about relevance, it's about voices, having different perspectives. And that's why actually interdisciplinarity is very important, because you don't know, like when we did a pilot of this University of the Future, so we gave the students a challenge of building the first human colony on Mars. They're like, people were saying like, oh really? I mean, what is this challenge? I was telling them, yeah, actually we want them like to be freed from any constraint they might have on Earth, like really to be extremely innovative. Like you are on Mars, you are going to build the first human colony on Mars. And then actually we had group of students working on the shelter where actually people are going to live on Mars. Then the second group working on food, what are we going to eat? Okay, the third group was actually about the health and the well-being of the settlers. And the last group was about like to have an economy and a society on Mars. What does it take to have like a group? And then I remember like those who were working on the shelter, so you expect like, oh, most of the ideas will come maybe from engineering students, or no, actually we had students from the law college, humanities, and they came up with amazing ideas about how actually to have this shelter on Mars. Anyway, so that's, I mean, it's a long, I can spend hours and days talking about the University of the Future, but it's really about also embedding this entrepreneurship, impact, proactivity, being proactive, having a vision, being an agent, having a different mindset, like at the core of everything we do. And then last thing, just actually talking about researchers, if I go back to this idea, I don't think actually universities need to push researchers to become entrepreneurs. Researchers should remain researchers. It's not their job actually to create startups. They need to understand like the real world needs. They need to understand what an entrepreneurial, how it works, like to build a startup, etc. But themselves, they need to stay because they are good in doing what they are doing, okay? But we need to connect them with industry, with the ecosystem, and help them actually bring their inventions to market.
I totally agree to that point. When we were working with startups in the UK, that was one of the agendas, that you have a research team and then you have a startup team, and then they both collaborate on that same vision of the technology and take it forward. And I wouldn't say it was a successful model, but it worked really well, and we did see results. So To say that it's a successful model, we'll have to see some more data for the next 10 years or something like that. But it's a very interesting point you raised. And you also said we can talk about this topic of University of Future for hours and hours. Similarly, we can talk about lab to market for hours and hours, but because we don't have enough time, I don't know if we have time for questions. Do we have time for questions? Fair enough. I'm so sorry. I can have that discussion with you outside, or you have the panel members here. I would just like to thank everybody and the panel members specifically for taking time out and having such an interesting conversation. And thank you all.